Welcome to the second video tutorial on how to create mobile apps for Android. In this application, we're going to create a Roman numeral converter. And so in this app, you could type in any number that you can think of, and it will convert it into the symbols of Roman letters. Or conversely, if we put in our Roman letters, we should be able to get our Arabic numbers as we have like here in 25. What you'll see in this application is not so much how the buttons and the fields work on an application, but the code behind it. So we're going to create a class here called Convert to Roman, and this will be more of a Java language tutorial and an introduction to some classes more than it will be on Android. And so this is for you that have maybe jumped into Android programming and are not familiar with maybe the background of Java. Let's take a peek first at Roman numerals. We have to understand those if we're going to program in them. We use Roman numerals maybe for faces on the clock. We use for Super Bowl events. We use it for the Olympiad. We use it for some posters that you would have on concerts, or you might have it in copyrights on movies and books. And so in the letters of a Roman numeral, we use the letters I, V, X, L, C, D, and M, and that's the list there. And so if you were to count from 1 to 10, you would get something that looks like this here. And the rules of Roman numerals are like this. You can repeat 3 letters at a time, like triple I or triple X or triple C. You can use a -1 sign if you combine the smaller letter with the larger, like IV would give you 4, or IX would compute to 9. You can also compute like an XL, which would give you a 50 minus 10, which is 40, or XC, which is 10 away from 100, so that would give you a 90 as well. And so the rules are like this. If you combine larger letters with smaller ones, like IVVV, you add them together. And if you have smaller letters in front of larger, then you create a minus situation, like a 9, 90, or 400. So let's get started in our Android Studio project. We'll start with a new Studio project, and we'll also give it a name. Let's call it Roman numeral converter, and let's give it a version of Android. You can choose pretty much any of the versions, and an empty activity. Let's give the main activity its original name. So there'll be 3 parts in building this application. First of all, we'll build the interface, and then we'll build the buttons that are programmed behind it. And also we'll have to create some routines, some logic behind the idea of how to convert from a Roman symbol into a regular Arabic number and vice versa. Well, let's get started with building the interface. So I'm going to delete the hello world and start from scratch. First of all, we need a place to be able to input the number. And so down here in plain text is where we're going to choose. And let's put it right in the top center. Now, the width we're going to leave as, instead of fill wrap content, we're going to do fill parent. So that way it takes the entire width of the screen. Next, we're going to put a button underneath so we can say convert. And then the next is a plain text view. So this allows the computer to put out the information on the screen. So let's give these IDs in text. First of all, in the edit text view, let's double click it. Let's leave this empty for a moment. Let's call this ET for edit text, and then the word number. Enter. For the button, let's double click this, and let's give this a string for the beginning to say, let's call this convert to Roman for our string, and we'll put that as our title, our resource value, convert to Roman. For the new text, we can leave this blank. And we can just call this text view, and we'll call this Roman output. So this is where we're going to put out the answer. Up here in this text field, we should give the user a hint. And so down in this section called hints, we're going to put in a new string. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots at the end, which will allow us to put in a resource. And I'm going to call this the number hint, and I'm going to say here enter a number. So the hint tells the user what it's expecting. So the first 3 items on the screen will tell us how to convert from a number to Roman. The next will be the other way around. So let's put in a plain text view here, which will allow us to put in a different number. Let's double click this, and let's call this thing edit text Roman input. Let's change his width to fill the parent, and let's give this a hint as well. We'll say here we're going to enter a string. We'll call this enter a Roman. Enter a Roman numeral. Now let's line this up so it's in the center. There we have it. We need a button to be able to do the conversion process. So for his string, we're going to call him convert to number. And so we'll need to have a regular Arabic number output at the bottom, so we'll take a plain text view and drop him down at the bottom. Let's delete the text, and we'll call this thing TV. And the other one was called Roman output, so this one we're going to call number output. Okay, it appears like we have our interface done. Now let's go into the programming part.